Hey everyone, this is Dr. Steve. I'm excited to bring you today's webinar. This is our restful sleep in stressful times. So we know that this is becoming such an issue with a lot of our patients and really just a lot of the people in our community. More and more people tell us they just don't sleep well. Their quality of sleep is not where it needs to be, and they're really suffering the effects. So we're going to be teaching you today some tips and ways that you can help improve your sleep, get more hours of sleep each night, and really give you the big picture as to why it's so important. This is a very simple thing that you can do in your life. You have complete control over it. If it just means getting one more hour of sleep to reduce your risk of heart disease or obesity or diabetes or having a heart attack, whatever the case may be, you are in complete control of this. And we're going to give you some tips on how to make this change. So let's go ahead and get started. The thing is with sleep, we're the only mammal that willingly delays sleep. When you have a dog or a cat, and we've all seen this, when they're tired, they just lay down and go to sleep. And we're the ones that we try to do everything else we can, and then sleep is the first thing that we neglect. And that's the reason why our health is the way it is, and it's the reason why we suffer and really just drag through our days, because we're willing to give up one of the most important physiological processes in our body, which is sleep, just because we have so many other things going on that we think is much more important when it's not. So, we have to understand that we're in control of this, and that sleep is something that's necessary and actually vital for proper functioning of our body, and really just everything that happens throughout the course of our day. It really starts with a good night's sleep. And we talk about the consequences of poor sleep. I think you guys should all recognize, Heath Ledger and Michael Jackson, and these guys both obviously have both died in recent years. But Heath Ledger, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but when he was recording the filming of the movie The Batman, he actually died during the recording of that movie. And what they found out is that he was taking and overusing prescription drugs, and a lot of those were prescription sleep aids. And so that resulted in just him being exhausted and just wore out, and to the point where they believe his body just shut down. And guys, that's the thing. You can knock somebody out with a baseball bat, for example, and they'll look like they're sleeping, but they are not sleeping. All the good things that are occurring when you sleep are not happening when somebody gets knocked out just because they look like they're asleep. It's no different than if you're knocking yourself out with a sleeping pill. You're not getting the same benefit of that sleep as you would be if you were just sleeping naturally. And of course, then you got Michael Jackson. This guy was using a drug called propofol, which is an anesthetic often used during major surgery. But he was using this drug at home because a lot of the people around him told reporters and people that he was having difficulty sleeping. He hadn't slept well in years and maybe even decades. And so when you short sleep, which is getting inadequate sleep for most adults, that sleep is 7 to 9 hours a night. If you're getting 6 hours or less, that increases your risk of stroke. It increases your risk of heart disease and heart attacks. It increases your risk of diabetes and obesity, and increases your risk for a host of other health issues. But again, you are in complete control of the amount of sleep that you get each and every day. You're at least in control of when you prioritize your sleep. So when we look at some of the consequences of poor sleep, this slide just illustrates just exactly what happens in the body. And we're talking, things like increased risk of cancer, increased risk of obesity, quadruple risk of stroke. Your heart disease risk increases, your fertility goes down. When you start to look at the other things that happen here on the right hand side, so you're hungrier. So when you get short sleep, oftentimes your body starts craving the foods that you shouldn't be eating. It starts that are high in sugar, high in carbohydrates. So, and that's due to just the hormone levels in your body. The hormone's called ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, increases when you don't get enough adequate sleep. So your cognitive function, people who short sleep or get less than 6 hours a night are at higher risk of having accidents, whether it's on the road behind the wheel or at work. Your immune system goes down. And actually, what they find is that your brain will deteriorate in as little as 7 days of getting inadequate sleep. So I don't know about you guys, but I don't want my brain to begin to deteriorate just because I choose to neglect one of the most important parts of my day, which is sleep. So how much sleep do we need? Really, this depends on your age. So if you are a newborn baby or a young kid, you're going to require a lot more sleep just because there's so much growth and development occurring in those younger years of life. Now, the average adult, you're looking at anywhere from 7 to 9 hours on average of sleep per day. And then the thing about sleep is really the rhythm and timing of the body clock also changes with age. So we all know if being a teenager, or if you have teenagers at home, that they tend to fall asleep later at night than younger kids do, but the teenagers also wake up later in the morning. For older adults, oftentimes they'll go to sleep earlier in the evening and they'll wake up early in the morning. So really this whole body clock changes as we go throughout our lives. And that's due to a number of factors that I'm not going to go into right now. There's different neurochemicals and neurotransmitters that are released at certain times of the day that trigger this, the sleep response. Just understand that as an adult, the average adult needs 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night. And if you're getting less than that, you're putting yourself at risk for all the things that I just mentioned in the previous slide, none of which were good. And really, to understand the importance of sleep, we really got to know some basic mechanisms of the sleep-wake cycle. Most people understand that the sleep cycle consists of, on average, of roughly 8 hours of nocturnal or nighttime sleep with 16 hours of daytime wakefulness. So that's the average sleep cycle for a human being. But there's two things. There's two internal influences that control this cycle. Now, one of those is what's called sleep homeostasis. One of them is called circadian rhythms. Now, not to get too complex here, just understand that from the time that you wake up, your homeostatic drive for sleep accumulates, reaching its maximum later in the evening when most individuals fall asleep. But your circadian rhythm, that refers to the cyclical changes that occur in the body over a 24-hour period, and it's really driven by the brain's biological clock. So the circadian rhythm, these internal 24-hour rhythms and physiology and behavior, these are synchronized to the external physical environment, as well as your social and your work schedules. But in humans, light is the strongest synchronizing agent when it comes to your overall sleep cycle. Maybe an easier way to think about this, when you think about these two, internal control mechanisms, the homeostatic system tends to make us sleepier as time goes on throughout the waking period. So throughout the day, we get sleepier regardless of whether it's day or night. So that just really refers to the length of time that you've been awake, and that accumulates during that time that you're awake to the point where you want to fall asleep. Whereas the circadian rhythm, that is basically tied to or controlled more so by the light-dark cycle. So with the circadian rhythm, your brain tells you that when it starts getting dark, that's when you should start to sleep. Hopefully that'll make sense. But your sleep quality and your restfulness are best when the sleep schedule is synchronized to both your internal circadian rhythms and that of the light-dark cycle throughout the course of a day. So this interaction is just very, very complex, but it just goes to show, anybody who's ever flown across, several time zones, or somebody who's worked a graveyard shift can attest to the fact that when you start messing up your sleep-wake cycle, and then when you flip it and you're awake at night versus sleeping during the day, how that can really mess with your quality of sleep, and oftentimes it results in very, very poor quality of sleep. So when we look at the cycle, there's 5 we go through. I know this has stage 1, 2, 3, and then REM, but 3 and 4 are basically together. So when you look at stage 1, this is really the time where we become drowsy. So this is the transitional period from the time that you're awake to falling asleep. And anybody who's dozed off in church on a Sunday morning, this was the stage of sleep that you were falling into. And stage 2 is more of a light sleep, but it's also a more stable sleep. And the cool thing about stage 2 is that there's chemicals released in your brain during the stage, which kind of block the senses and make it more difficult to be woken up. Stage 3 and 4 are often referred to together as a slow wave sleep. This is a deep sleep. This is the sleep that's most difficult to be awakened from. The neat thing about stage 3 sleep is that there's a lot of important hormones that are released during this stage that are responsible for growth and energy regulation, metabolism and hormone function. All that occurs in stage 3 sleep. Then when you progress to REM sleep, this is a very active period of sleep, intense brain activity during this time. But this is the stage where most dreams occur. But it's also the stage when your brain and body are re-energized. This is where your body gets a chance to recharge and rebuild and regenerate from all the stress that you've encountered throughout the course of a day. And guys, keep in mind, this cycle repeats itself about every hour and a half to 2 hours each and every night. So you're going to cycle through these different stages multiple times during the night. But guys, here's the thing. Your body needs to cycle through these different stages multiple times a night. So number one, if you're not getting enough hours of sleep, then you're inhibiting this process by really preventing your body from being able to cycle through these numerous times. Or if you're getting just poor quality sleep and you're waking up a lot, you're not fully progressing through these stages, and you're not entering into the REM sleep, which is where your brain is re-energized and recharged, and that has a profound effect on your health. So getting that 8 hours of sleep allows your body to go through these cycles the way it's supposed to. Your body does what it's supposed to physiologically. Your brain gets recharged like plugging in your cell phone at night, and the battery's got to recharge. Well, your brain has to recharge too. It's no different. If it doesn't recharge, it starts to break down. So most people don't realize that you can die from not getting enough sleep. The research is still kind of out there as far as how long a person can go without sleep before they die. But the consensus seems to be among people who study this is that you can go 3 times longer without food than you can without sleep. So it's not some just passive thing that we do throughout part of our day, and then we wake up and go about our business. There's so much that occurs during sleep that we're really just beginning to understand, and we haven't fully comprehended yet. But just know that there's so many different processes that take place during sleep that all the researchers agree is absolutely essential. Absolutely essential for overall health and wellness to make sure that you get sleep. So we're going to really cover some ways here that you can help improve your chances of getting good quality sleep. And we're going to go through all these here in just a minute. So the one thing that you can do, the first thing you can do is exercise. What they have found is that getting 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise per week can improve your sleep quality by up to 65%. And it doesn't have to be this long, drawn-out 45 minutes to an hour workout. It can be as little as 12 minutes a day doing the max T3. The cool thing about doing a surge training or the max T3 type exercise is that when you're done exercising and at night when you go to sleep, you're actually one of those people that are going to be burning fat while you're sleeping. So you're going to be making everybody's going to hate you because you're actually burning fat while you sleep. And I can't think of a more effective way to do it than that. So morning time has been shown to be the best time of day to exercise. Right when you get up, get your exercise in. That way it's done, it's over with. You won't talk yourself out of it over the course of the next 10 to 12 hours throughout the course of a day. But from a physiological, from a health and wellness standpoint, the morning is the best time to exercise. Now, I know some of you may not like to hear what I'm about to say, but there's certain things that you should not eat or drink or consume before going to bed. So if you're one of those people that likes a late night snack of ice cream or chocolate chip cookies, or maybe you like to enjoy a glass of wine before you go to bed, you may want to listen up. Eating refined carbohydrates or sugar within an hour of going to bed is a huge mistake. And the reason why is because when you eat a lot of refined carbohydrates or your blood sugar to spike. There's a lot of things going on, release of insulin. There's a lot of things going on at that time, but then your body crashes during the night when you're sleeping. Your body is not designed to be processing this stuff when we're sleeping. And so a lot of times when you eat a lot of sugar before bed, people report waking up, they just feel, they feel restless. They often feel like they're hungover or they have a headache. So it has a profound effect, but it just goes to show that when you eat that sugar, there's a lot of things that your body has to do to counteract that intake of sugar, which is not what should be occurring during the night when you're sleeping. Really the same thing with alcohol. People often will consume a glass of wine or a beer or something before they go to bed. Now, that will have the effect of causing you to relax and maybe allow you to fall asleep, but during the night, your body rebounds, causing you to wake up, and then it's much more difficult to go back to sleep after you've woken up in the middle of the night. So really kind of both these processes are very similar. When you think about caffeine, coffees, teas, things like that, really don't want to be consuming those beverages later in the evening, because caffeine, like a lot of other drugs, will block certain receptors in your brain that are they're kind of earmarked for other hormones and chemicals that were supposed to trigger that sleep cycle. So if you're blocking those receptors with caffeine, then you disrupt that entire cycle. You can't fall asleep. You're laying there at 1 o'clock in the morning wondering what you're going to do until you eventually fall asleep, but then you only get 3, 4, 5 hours of sleep. Your body can't cycle through the different phases, and therefore you suffer as a result. So best thing you can do is just avoid sugar, carbohydrates, caffeine, and alcohol before going to bed. Like I mentioned before, light is one of the main synchronizing factors of the entire sleep cycle. So it's important that during the day you get direct sunlight. Now, as it gets later in the day, you need to start decreasing the amount of light in your home. When you go to bed, you need to shut down your electronics, and look for little things in your room. Maybe the light from a cable box. Maybe it's an alarm clock. It could be a smoke alarm. It could be a number of things that are putting off lights in your bedroom. Those are things that you want to cover up or get rid of altogether. You want your room to be as pitch black as possible. Getting heavier drapes for your room, shades, anything that you can get that's going to block out any ambient light from coming in your room is going to help your brain kick in to that cycle of putting you to sleep. Also, night lights. So night lights are not good to have in your bedroom as an adult. They're certainly not good for kids either. What they find is that night lights prevent your brain from entering into that sleep cycle. And so if you have young kids at home, they got night lights in the room, the best thing you can do is either try to block a lot of that light or get them out altogether. Maybe try to get them to the point where you can decrease the amount of light and then have no light whatsoever. And this is very true. This is really the most profound thing with people who work overnight shifts. If you work at night and then try to sleep during the day, your whole homeostatic control and your circadian rhythm is out of balance. And so these people often have a real hard time getting to sleep. But for those of you who do work at night, there is help. What they find is that if you can take at least a 20-minute nap in the middle of the night, it can help you maintain or actually even improve your alertness, your performance, and your mood. So, if you're having trouble with your work schedule, it's not the typical work schedule. If you can at least get a 20-minute nap somewhere in that time frame, it will help tremendously maintain your focus, concentration, and just overall performance. Now, your mom was right. You need to make your bed. What they find is that people who make their bed each and every day after they wake up, there's something that shifts within your brain, that tells you now it's time to go to sleep. It's much more inviting, knowing that your bed is clean, prepared. It just helps facilitate that entire process. And research has shown that people who make their bed each and every day after they wake up reported a 19% improvement in their sleep, which is phenomenal. That's an average, of course. Some got better, some were worse, but just make your bed. It's a very small thing that you have absolute control over each and every day. Mattress quality. As there's been so much improvement in the technology and mattresses over the last 5 to 10 years, it's incredible. And I hear people all the time tell me, I have my mattress even 25 years. If you've had your mattress longer than 10 years, it's time to invest in a new one. Again, the technology has improved. It's much, much more supportive for your body. And if you support the body and it's comfortable, you're going to get a better night's sleep. And people often ask me, well, what mattress do you recommend? It's a very individual preference. You really need to find what works best for you. Generally, a medium to firm mattress is ideal. I do like mattresses that you can adjust. So the Sleep Number beds, you can adjust the firmness. Generally, I like those because you have control. Maybe sometimes you want it more firm, sometimes less firm. But if you're getting any kind of mattress, make sure it's a medium firmness. People ask us a lot too, what kind of pillow would you recommend at night? And again, this goes back to preference. There's 1,000 different pillows out there. Coreproducts.com, they have a pillow called the Tri-Core pillow, which is great, provides excellent support for your head and neck. I also use what's called a ChiraFlow pillow. This is a water-based pillow. Again, going back to being adjustable, you can add more water to make it more thick or more firm. You can take water out, make it a little bit flatter and a little bit more supportive. So those are really there's two good websites on here, the coreproducts.com and the chiraflow.com, if you want to get more information, on those different types of pillows. And really the last thing I'm going to speak of here is just no working in bed. And this is a big thing for a lot of people. Your bedroom really should be for two things. It should be for sleep or intimacy. You shouldn't be in there with your laptop or your tablets, doing work that you should have done throughout the course of the day. Another thing too is no nonfiction books before bed. What some research has indicated is that when you read nonfiction books, and a lot of times maybe self-help books, that this really causes your brain to go into overdrive, because you start thinking about things, you start overanalyzing your life and really things that you want to work on or improve upon with yourself. And that is completely counterproductive to your brain relaxing, settling in to that sleep cycle and getting you a good night's sleep. So put away the Facebook, put away the self-help books, put away the laptop, when you go to bed. And even TVs, for example, you should watch TV somewhere else besides your bedroom. So if you have a TV in your bedroom, take it out. You don't need it. It's going to prevent you from getting a good night's sleep. Now, sleep position. This is a big thing, guys. So what's wrong with this picture when you look at it? And I noticed several things that are wrong right off the bat. Number one, you got the guy's arm up over the top of her shoulders. So that's actually forcing her upper spine into extension, putting stress on the spine. You got the cat laying on her lower back. Same thing. It's putting stress or extension on her spine. That's not what it's designed for. And of course, the third thing I noticed here, which is probably the most detrimental, is that she's on her stomach with her head turned to the side. Now, if you lay like that for any length of time, muscles in your neck begin to, certain muscles lengthens, other muscles begin to shorten, but it's this muscle asymmetry that begins to pull on the spine, causing the spine to rotate or shift out of its normal position. Now, if you're putting pressure on the nerves in your neck, that can result in things like headaches. Maybe it results in stuff like thoracic outlet syndrome, where you get pain or numbness shooting down an arm. Now, this can also affect the nerves going to your thyroid gland, to your heart and your lungs. So, what you want to do as far as the best sleeping position is sleep on your back. That is the most ideal, with your head touching the bed. Sometimes even putting a pillow up under your knees when you're on your back can help take some pressure off of your lower spine. But the best way would be to lay flat on your back on your sleep aids or on your spinal sleep aids, helping to maintain and restore the normal curvature of the spine. The second best option is on your side with your head and neck supported with a pillow. And oftentimes, like for myself, I will take the pillow that was underneath my knees and just run it lengthways between my legs to help provide some support for my pelvis and my lower back. Now, I know this will be tough for a lot of people, but no pets or kids in the bed. Kids and dogs are the biggest bed hogs around and some of the worst sleepers. I know for myself, when one of my girls crawls in bed with us, I get horrible sleep. I wake up, I toss and turn all night. I wake up feeling tired and I can't wait to go back to sleep again. But you deserve your own sleeping space, and your pets and your kids' sleeping space. So this is, again, another thing you have complete control over. If you want to get good quality sleep, kick Fido to the floor, send little Mary back to her own bed. That is something you have control over, and it will make a huge improvement in the quality of sleep. And just like what the slide here says, 53% of people who sleep with their pets experience nightly sleep disruption. 80% of adults who sleep with a kid in bed have trouble sleeping. So it's not worth a quadruple risk or a quadruple increase in the stroke risk stroke. It's not worth increased risk of cardiovascular disease or increased risk of cancer just because you want to appease your dog, your cat, or your child. Each should have their own separate place to sleep. And the last thing I'm going to touch on here, as far as how to improve sleep quality, some things you can do and have control over, is really maintain the proper temperature in your bedroom. And what they found is a temperature of 68 to 72 degrees is the best. So sorry, ladies, if you like the room to be 80 degrees and warm. Most people sleep better in a cool room. So adjust the thermostat, do whatever you got to do to maintain the ideal temperature between 68 and 72 degrees. And I know for a lot of people, they require just some white noise, something in the room, whether it's the sound of a fan going. Maybe you have an app on your phone that can produce some white noise. I know for myself, I got to have a fan going, just that noise. If it's too quiet, my brain won't kick into sleep and I have a hard time going to sleep. So you find what works best for you, but the temperature is a huge thing and something you have complete control over. Now, I know a lot of people who have sleep problems take medications. It's trouble sleeping now is labeled a condition or a disorder. So if it's labeled as a condition or disorder, then you know that there's a pill for it. And guys, this is a huge issue that we see in this country. In fact, in 2011, this is the most recent year the statistics were provided, 60 million prescriptions written for sleeping pills in this country, and it's growing every single year. And it's not just adults. In fact, the Wall Street Journal published an article that said that 300,000 kids were prescribed sleeping pills each and every year. And there's a host of side effects that occur with taking a sleeping pill. There's nothing good that comes out of those. And according to the British Medical Journal, they published a study back in 2012 that found that those people who were taking prescription sleep drugs like Ambien were more likely to develop cancer. And guys, they were 5 times more likely to die within a period of 2.5 years. There are better alternatives out there to sleeping pills. One of them is 5-HTP. It's also known as 5-hydroxytryptophan. It's a naturally occurring substance. In fact, it's naturally derived from a West African medicinal plant, and it is the immediate precursor to serotonin. For those of you guys that don't know about the neurotransmitter serotonin, that's the chemical responsible for your mood. It's also the chemical responsible for the sleep cycle. And the bad thing about serotonin is it naturally decreases as we get older, but irrelevant of your age, the production of serotonin can be compromised by increased levels of stress. And so if you're decreasing your serotonin production, that's going to lead to things like depression, anxiety, and of course, insomnia. So what research has shown is that you can actually increase your levels of serotonin. The 5-HTP is the immediate precursor, and when you take it, it's actually converted in the brain into serotonin, which can really help to reestablish these healthy sleep patterns in most people. And I know we've all heard of sleep apnea before. We probably even know somebody who has sleep apnea. And guys, I don't know, for those of you who don't know what sleep apnea is, this is a disorder in where you have one or more pauses in breathing or shallow breaths while you sleep. And these breathing pauses can last from a few seconds to a few minutes. And they can even occur as many as 30 times or more in an hour. And sleep apnea in and of itself is usually a chronic ongoing condition that just disrupts your sleep like nothing else. And so when your breathing becomes shallow or when your breathing pauses, your brain is smart. God didn't make a mistake when he made us. Your brain recognizes the fact that you're having difficulty getting air, and so it moves you out of deep sleep, obviously, which is much more difficult, into a light sleep. So you're not getting through the proper sleep cycles. And again, you're missing out on the benefit of all the good things that occur during the night when you're supposed to sleep. So sleep apnea is actually the leading cause of excessive daytime sleepiness in the United States. Number one thing that causes people to have accidents or poor work performance or a host of other health conditions. And who in their right mind, could sleep with one of these, sleep masks in their face? If you guys don't know, these are actually called a CPAP machine. It's short for continuous positive airway pressure. You put this mask on your face, and what it does, it actually forces open the airways and kind of shoots air down and enabling you to breathe. Guys, in our office, we don't necessarily believe in sleep apnea because that's just a symptom of an underlying problem, but we do believe in forward head posture. And so when we look at forward head posture and what it does to the nervous system, it compromises the spinal cord, more significantly the upper part of your spinal cord up here where these arrows are pointing to. That's your brainstem. And at your brainstem is the area that has your sleep centers, your serotonin centers. And another nerve that we got to really focus on at that level is also one of your cranial nerves called your glossopharyngeal nerve. That nerve is what goes to your soft palate. Now, part of your soft palate is muscle. And it just makes sense that if you reduce the nerve supply to a muscle, the muscle relaxes. If you increase nerve supply to the muscle stays toned. But when the muscle of the soft palate is toned, it enables it to stay open, allowing your airway to stay open. But if you lose the curve in your neck and your head shifts forward and you compromise the upper part of your brainstem and that cranial nerve area, then you start to obstruct the airways, and over time it's going to lead to sleep apnea. So one of the best things that you can do if you know of somebody on a CPAP machine, or if you're having trouble with sleep yourself, is to actually assess your spine to make sure you have a normal curve, that you're not overly extended at the top of your spine, right at the base of your skull, which can put direct pressure on the spinal cord and the brainstem. So we have to just remember where all this starts. Great sleep, along with every other process occurring in your body, it starts with proper nerve function. You see, God put the most amazing healing power right inside of our own body. That power is in our nervous system. That's your brain and your spinal cord. And our nervous system controls every single function in the body. Nothing happens in your body without your nervous system first telling it to do so. So for you to interpret what I'm saying, for your heart to beat, lungs to breathe, for a cut to heal in your leg, information has to travel from your brain down your spinal cord and out the nerves to the rest of your body. And the neat thing is that God also created this amazing thing called the spinal column. And that's 24 individual vertebrae that are designed to surround and protect your delicate nervous system. And when your spine and nervous system are in the correct position, the body can function at 100%. When your spine shifts out of its normal position, or you lose the normal curves of the spine, it puts tension on the spinal cord. It pinches the spinal nerves and it compresses the brainstem. So not only can this affect the sleep centers, like I mentioned before, that are in the upper part of your spinal cord there at the level of your brainstem, it also affects just about every other automatic function of the nervous system, those functions that are responsible for basically controlling and coordinating everything that happens in your body. So when we look at X-rays, people often ask, well, what should my X-ray look like? Well, you can see on the top left corner, that is a normal X-ray. It's a 45-degree curve. Head is positioned up over the shoulders. There's no degeneration. That is what a normal X-ray should look like. And you can see the picture just below it showing an MRI. You see the spinal cord. The spinal cord is nice and thick. It's open. Messages can flow freely from the brain down the spinal cord, out the body. So there's no pressure. There's no interference. Now, if you look at the top right corner, you can see how that curve is completely buckled the opposite direction. And there's massive pressure, tension occurring on the spinal cord. And if you look at the MRI beneath it, you can see the spinal cord is literally being choked and compressed at two different areas. Do you think that if you're doing that to your spinal cord, that may have an effect on the automatic body functions like the sleep-wake cycle? Absolutely. So if you have subluxations or damage to the curves of your spine, it's not just causing the kink in your neck or the ache in your back. It's literally destroying your out. People often ask me, well, how do I know if I have spinal subluxations? Well, again, the body is smart. God didn't make a mistake when he created us. So there are things called warning signs. One of the most common warning signs that we see are headaches. So when your head shifts forward, when you lose a normal 45-degree curve in your neck, it begins to pinch those nerves going to the back of your head. Those are the nerves that control the blood supply to the head and are more often than not responsible for triggering headaches. Could be a tension headache that starts in the back of your neck, goes up into your head. Maybe it's that migraine headache where you're basically incapacitated for several hours, forces you into a dark, quiet room. But regardless of the type of the headache, what do most people do for it? People take a medication. Well, what happens when the medication wears off? The headache just comes right back because we didn't fix anything. So taking a medication is like putting a piece of duct tape over your flashing check engine light. The light goes away, but the problem remains. When you actually get to the cause and you remove the pressure on the nerves causing the headache goes away. It's that simple. It's just cause and effect. And I'd say if 100 people walked in our office with a headache, 99 of them would walk out without a headache. And the reason why is because we get to the cause. Other warning signs are menstrual problems or high blood pressure. And it goes back to what I was mentioning before, the brainstem area of the spine. That's where your blood pressure centers are located, right at the base of your skull. And it's actually been found, there's actually some studies published in the Journal of Hypertension. They found that chiropractic adjustments or adjustments to the upper part of your spine actually lower blood pressure better than the two most common prescribed medications for high blood pressure. Another warning sign might be depression. Again, the serotonin centers are right there at the brainstem area. So if your head is shifted forward and your head is locked back into extension, you're choking off that brainstem area, affecting the serotonin centers. Insomnia, same thing. You're compressing, you're interfering with those serotonin centers, and you can't produce the chemicals you need to enter into sleep. Other things might be, sciatica or low back pain. That there's a mechanical problem in your lower spine that more often than not people try to treat with a chemical solution like a Tylenol or an Advil. Neck pain, same thing. It's a mechanical problem. Dizziness. Well, the nerves that go to your inner ear, those are located at the base of your skull as well. You guys should be hearing a theme here. The neck is one of the most important areas of your spine when it comes to every physiological function that occurs in your body. Acid reflux. Anybody who has acid reflux, what do they often take? They take the purple pill, right? Nexium. All that is doing is really interfering with your body's ability to do what it wants to do naturally. It's not fixing the problem. And it's the exact same thing with any one of these conditions I just mentioned. If you're taking medication for these things, you're just chasing the symptom. You're not getting to the underlying problem. It's like, again, covering up your flashing check engine light with a piece of tape. The light goes away, but you didn't fix the problem. And who would do that? If your check engine light or check oil light comes on and it's flashing at you, no one would just keep driving their car around because if you do, it's just going to be a matter of time before the thing blows up. Right? But we do that with our own health. We have these warning signs. Your body is telling you there's something wrong, but we just take a medication or a pill and basically tell it to shut up. We don't want to listen to it. Right? We're too busy for that. But can you see where if you continue to ignore these warning signs, here comes heart disease, here comes cancer, here comes diabetes. You just simply cannot ignore these warning signs. So one of the most important things to do is obviously to maintain your spine. So if you're an existing patient in our office, that means doing your home rehab, maintaining your adjustments. And if you're someone who's never had their spine checked, that means getting to the right place, getting your spine checked, and getting under the right type of care. So all the things we've covered here are things that you can do to help improve your sleep quality. They're something you have complete control over. And on top of that, when we look at supplementation, we already talked about the 5-HTP, great supplement for people who have a hard time sleeping. Melatonin is also something that works well for people who can't sleep. That's another one of those chemicals that's in the same line as the 5-HTP and serotonin. But max greens are also very, very important. You're getting the nutrients that your body needs to rebuild, regenerate, restore itself once you get into sleep. And vitamin D3, there's so many things that vitamin D3 is responsible for in the body, so many biochemical reactions and processes. And more often than not, most people in this country are deficient in vitamin D. And that really goes back to what I was saying before about getting adequate sun exposure. What does your body produce when you get adequate sun exposure? Vitamin D3, right? You need that. Your body needs that in order to function properly. So if you're not already taking these things, these would be great things to add to your arsenal and will help you tremendously in getting the proper sleep that you need. So, really to wrap this up, understand that you are not broken. Understand that you are not defective. Maybe you have a hard time getting to sleep. Maybe you have a hard time staying asleep. Maybe you just refuse to allow yourself to sleep by making it difficult. That might be, drinking coffee at bedtime, or alcohol before bedtime, or eating large meals before bedtime, or having a lot of things going on in your bedroom. You're working on your laptop, or it's too warm. All the things I just covered, you have complete control over that. But it's time to make a decision that I'm going to just do this. I'm going to do everything I can to get my body in the proper sleep-wake cycle, and I guarantee you your health will be restored and regenerated as a result. So one thing I want you to do after you go to this webinar is obviously it's going to link you to our Facebook page. Share this webinar with anybody that you know who's having trouble. Send them there, have them watch this webinar. If they take one or two things away from it, it's better than nothing, all right? Because if somebody is not getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, and you can help them get up to 6 hours a night from 4 or 5, or they get up to 7, just the impact, the benefits to their health will be profound, and they're going to love you for it. So again, go to our Facebook page, send this link to everybody you know. God bless you guys. Remember who you are, and God bless.